Hello and welcome to the Critically Clueless. I'm a monk, and today we are in Age of Wonders 4, and this video is going to be a quick tips video. Hopefully by the end of this video you'll pick up one or two things that will help you within your game in your first couple of playthroughs. And don't forget, if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, tip number one is going to be to pay attention during combat. If you do actually take part in the combat, it is a turn-based experience. And if you've ever played XCOM, then you'll be very familiar with flanking your opponents. Now, flanking is so powerful in this game. It provides a massive damage buff for your characters if you flank the enemy. So look for those flanking opportunities in combat. And tip number two is another one while in combat. Did you know that the spells that you research actually can be used during combat? You get battle spells. Now, you may not be able to use them on turn one, although there is a perk for you to pick up, so that way you can do that. But look for opportunities to actually use your spells. It can be so easy to completely forget that you have access to spells during combats. Now, spells can do all kinds of things, whether it is buff your own troops, debuff the enemy troops, or deal physical damage to the troops in combat. Look for these opportunities. It's a great way to turn the edge in battle. Tip number three is going to be about your cities. Now, cities expand based on your population, and when you gain a population, and there's a few other things that would do it as well, but basically you get to claim another province. Well, these provinces can be really useful. What I would recommend is you actually settle and claim the provinces with a special building already on them. Your province could have a gold mine, or perhaps it has an ancient ruin. My advice to you is to focus on these provinces before you just put down a basic farm or a basic quarry. Because if you don't claim that province fast, the AI might just come up and snatch it off you. And all that being said, when it comes to diplomacy, and let's say, for instance, they snatch a province off you, or you snatch one of their provinces off them, grievances quickly build up. So tip number four is, did you know that you can actually go into negotiations and resolve those grievances? If you has slighted an empire for whatever it is, if enough time has passed, you can slip them a tiny little bit of money to settle that grievance once and for all, which means that you will no longer be earning negative relation with that faction. It can be done both ways as well. If they have put a grievance against you, then that matter can be settled too. And tip number five is again within diplomacy. Did you know that you can actually bargain for magical artifacts or magical items that another nation has? Sometimes you can also get mana off them and other things as well. The faction will have their set price. That can't really be bargained with. It does depend on your relation with them. But if they happen to have a tasty little trinket, and you think it should be in your empire instead of theirs, well then you can take it off their hands for a small fee. This can be really handy, and of course don't forget, most of these maps you are dealing with multiple empires at the same time, so make sure you're keeping up with what they have and what it's going to cost you to get it. Tip number six is that it's okay to be stuck in this game and not quite know what you need to be doing. But did you know the game is here to help you? All you have to do is press Y or triangle on your controller and then go down to advice. The game will give you a quick lowdown of the current problems within your empire. It normally does like a top four problems that it thinks you should be solving or at least be aware of. And then, of course, that means you are aware and able to work towards fixing these issues. For me, for instance, in this playthrough, I didn't know that I had low stability. I knew it was something I needed to keep an eye out for, but I hadn't realized my city had actually gone that low. Tip number 7 is don't be afraid to experiment in this game. Now, you have 6 different affinities in which you can choose from. Every single affinity has a number of different tomes ranging from level 1 to level 5. And there's a ton of decent spells, gadgets, unique customizations for both your nation, your empire, and unique buildings as well. Not to mention buffs and debuffs for certain armies. My advice to you guys is don't lock yourself down to just one affinity or 2 affinities. Mix and match. Sometimes all you need is a point here, a point there to give you enough turn by turn affinity points to actually dabble in the other lines as well. And that does lead me to tip number 8. In order to unlock the best spells in the game, you're going to be wanting to aim for Tome Tier 5. Now, in order to get a Tome Tier 5, you're going to need an awful lot of knowledge. And although you can research technically every single tome in the game, it's going to take you a long time to do so. My advice to you is to remember you need to learn 2 tome tier 2s in order to unlock 1 tome tier 3. And again, 2 tome tier 3s to unlock a level 4 and 2 4s to unlock a single tier 5 tome. Tip number 9 is simple, really. When it comes to actually creating your faction, is pay a little bit more attention to the text on the screen, because something that took me a little bit longer than perhaps it should have to realize is that as I picked my different cultures, that every single culture came with different perks. And it wasn't as simple as just picking my affinity points. So for instance, me picking dark not only gets me 2 affinity points with shadow, but it also gets me a ton of extra little buffs and bonuses to my civilization. Small things like this can be easily overlooked, so I'm hoping that you guys come into the game with just that little bit more foresight. Tip number 10 is about combat. Now, as you probably know by now, you have a number of different armies that you can move across the map. But tip number 10 is that did you know that you can bring multiple armies into combat? In fact, you can use them with just like a proximity that brings into combat. So if I take one of my troops and I go to attack someone else, it will take the troops within that proximity into battle. That being said, it's not just adjacent squares. You do actually have quite a big proximity. So if I take another unit and go and attack this guy over here, despite my secondary army being a tile back, he also gets drawn into that combat. A little side note is that that will work for the enemy as well. So pay attention to just how many troops you are bringing into that single battle, because if you're wanting to take down a singular army, you know you've got the power to do so, but yet it brings in too many troops, then you're going to have to figure out a way to lure it away from its backup. But there we have it, guys. That is another 10 tips for you. Hopefully at least 1 or 2 of them helped you out. If it did, let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you have tips that you want to share for Age of Wonders 4, then once again, the comments are down below. Let's grow as a community and help each other out. And on that note, we do have an active and growing Discord. I'm trying to recruit more Age of Wonders 4's players to the Discord so we can all help each other out and share our journeys. The link for it is down below in the description. But until next time, I've been a monk, we've been a Critically Clueless, and I'll see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.